It's Titans Talk here on News Channel 5+. I'm Jonathan Hutton with Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio, taking your phone call, 615-737-7767. Our number tonight as we talk Tennessee Titans football. They fall to the Panthers, Rhett, 27-10, the final score. Physical football game as expected, and a game that was won in the trenches. I think easily said. Front sevens, both front sevens on defense played very well.
Hats off to the Carolina Panthers. You didn't know, you had an idea they were this good.
Yeah.
They went on the road and beat Seattle at Seattle a few weeks ago. They've had victories like that.
Green Bay?
Everybody's waiting. Yeah, they beat Green Bay the week before. That's exactly right. We knew what Cam Newton was about, but the rest of this team, yeah, that's a pretty special bunch of guys, and reminds a lot of folks, including you and I, of an old Titans team around 99, 2000, physical. And the thing about those guys, the way they're built for December. They're built for a big running game. They've got a big running quarterback. They stay healthy, and they could be deep in the playoffs.
So what is it specifically about this Panthers team? Because you were certainly saying this yesterday after the game. Jim Wyatt from TitansOnline.com was mentioning this. That team reminded you guys of the 99 Titans team. More than just being physical, it was that the way the defense is built, they don't rely so much on the offensive skilled position players to make plays. They rely on their QB and their defense.
Well, and they had to, because Kelvin Benjamin, their star wide receiver, out for the year with an injured, on injured reserve with an injury, and so they had to rely on the likes of like Devin Funchess, their rookie from Michigan, and Ted Ginn Jr. that we saw yesterday. I think had 4 catches for 45 yards. But yes, the defense, to use Mike Keith's term, suffocating.
They did.
As you look at the things that stand out in this game, the Titans started out 3 of 4 converting third downs. 3 of those came on their second drive of the game. Only 2 more converted third downs the entire rest of the game. They just kind of choked the life out of them.
And offensively, the Titans' run game did not get going. We're going to discuss coming up later this hour about the run game going in on a short week to Jacksonville. We haven't seen David Cobb yet. Might we see him? We'll throw out that possibility a little bit later this hour. Again, we welcome your phone call, 615-737-7767, as we are live tonight. Titans Talk here on News Channel 5+. Rhett, word came down today at Mike Mularkey's press conference that injuries a concern for the last couple of weeks, but especially now going into a short week against Jacksonville, a game that will be carried on News Channel 5 this Thursday night, starting at 7 o'clock. And Justin Hunter placed on injured reserve. He had surgery to repair a fractured ankle.
Right. And
Jason McCourty, who has had multiple doctors look at his groin and came to the conclusion that he needed a second surgery, the first one coming earlier in the preseason. So he's on injured reserve as well.
That one really hurt you, because the secondary is already struggling with lack of depth there. And that's no slight to the Cody Riggs of the world and the B.W. Webbs of the world. Those guys aren't supposed to be out there as much as they have been. And let's not forget, you got Bleedy Ray Wilson, who re-aggravated a hamstring yesterday, so he's had a setback. So you need to get Perrish Cox back at cornerback, who is coming off his own hamstring and has missed 3 of the last 4 games. You really need him on Thursday night, but that tells you how physical this game with the Panthers was yesterday. Justin Hunter, that's a whole nother ball game there, because your wide receiving core, you only kept 4 wide receivers to begin with. And Kendall Wright's coming back from an MCL sprain in his knee. Hopefully he can be able to do something. But here's the thing with the short week. You can basically, they had a light practice today. They'll have a pretty solid practice tomorrow, a light walkthrough on Wednesday, and then travel to Jacksonville Wednesday afternoon. And here we go again. And this is where you can't control what the league does in terms of when your bye week scheduled, but it didn't do you any favors by it being scheduled as early as it was.
Will we see Trey McBride, for instance, at wide receiver, be elevated from the practice squad to the active roster?
That's probably the most logical move right now with 0 time. I mean, you basically have, a little over 96 hours and they're playing again. He's been in your system from day one. You drafted him. He's in practice every day. You're not going to get a guy off the street that's going to be able to dissolve any parts of a playbook in that period of time. People mention Hakeem Nicks, who was with them in the preseason, but It's been a while since he's been there. We don't know what kind of shape he's in, but Trey McBride makes the most sense if they make that kind of move at all. You heard in Mike Mularkey's press conference that we just aired there a minute ago from today that is a possibility, and they're looking at other avenues. They're heavy at tight end. Maybe they rely on tight end more than anything coming up Thursday night, but they're going to need help wherever they can get it.
Other injuries of note, Al Woods with a high ankle sprain. He came to the sideline yesterday and was just pacing back and forth on the sideline. Trainers didn't really look at him during the end of that game in the fourth quarter, but come to find out it's a pretty serious ankle sprain.
Yeah, Coach Mularkey says out a minimum of 2 games. Usually those things take their time in healing. It may be more like a 3 or 4 week thing. And the thing that is a little concerning there, Sammy Lee Hill, who has kind of taken a back seat at that nose tackle position, coming off of a knee surgery that he had earlier in the year, was limited at practice today and listed on the injury report as limited participation with that same knee, as they've been kind of easing him back into play. Now, maybe he's just ready to go full tilt boogie Thursday night, but we're going to have to see.
And you mentioned Bleedy Ray Wilson, who was held out of the second half yesterday because of that hamstring. Seems like him and Perrish Cox are just flip-flopping week to week, where Perrish Cox gets a rest, then tries to push through on a game and can't do that and has to be held out for a quarter or two in the latter portions of these games, and Bleedy's been sitting out. And then now we see Ray Wilson yesterday try to give it a go while Perrish Cox is inactive, and the same thing happens. Is there a scenario where we see both players inactive on a short week to make sure they're healthy for the final month and a half of the season, or do they have to ask one of these players to step up and play?
Well, when you look at the depth of the team, that certainly may be a possibility. Think about a guy like Perrish Cox, though. After sitting out like he did on Sunday and that 17-point loss, he'll be pushing and lobbying to get in there.
To play.
There's no doubt. And I'm not saying that Bleedy Ray doesn't.
Right.
Bleedy Ray Wilson doesn't. But that is a possibility. When you're talking about such a short turnaround time from game to game, I think anything's up for grabs in this, because you're also talking about a division game here and is wide open going into week 11 of this season.
And it's crazy to say, but when you think about the winner of this game and where they'll be set up moving forward towards the early portion of December in the race for the AFC South compared to the loser of this game. The loser's pretty much out of the race. The winner stays in at least the conversation with Houston and Indianapolis. 615-737-7767, our number if you'd like to talk Titans. Seth will lead us off when we come back. You're welcome to join us here. Titans Talk on News Channel 5+.